Willson Contreras to the Yankees? Say it ain't so. Have you heard the rumors swirling? All new Locked On Cubs is ready to roll now.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Cubs. Happy Wednesday to you. Good morning. Thank you for making us your first listen today, as you do every morning. It means so much to us. Man, it's good to be here. I'm Andrew Bellis, and I'm your host. Spending the morning with you guys, the Locked On fam, one of my favorite parts of the day, and we can't thank you enough for stopping by. Thanks for making us your first listen. Free and available wherever you find your favorite podcast. So download us today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We'd love your subscription. Locked On Cubs YouTube. Tons of great stuff there. Check us out on Twitter at Locked On Cubs, at Chicago Cubs PA. Engage with us. Be respectful of each other's opinions. What you think is cool, I might not, and vice versa, but that's quite all right. We can tolerate that. Let's be respectful and have some fun. Engage with us. Love to talk to Cubs fans, baseball fans, NL Central fans. Let's talk shop. So much great stuff today. I'm taking you guys to Mesa, Arizona. That's right. Free trip. Virtually, of course. The budget here at Locked On Cubs doesn't allow for me to take all you for real. Got the latest happenings from Cubs camp in Sloan Park in Mesa. Also, the latest on the Willson Contreras front. Shh, shh. Do you hear that? Swirling rumors. Contreras to the Yankees? Say it ain't so. But first, pitching. What's the old adage? Pitching and defense wins championships. Am I right? Today is all about the arms, starting out as we take a look at how the Cubs starting rotation is shaking out early in camp. Well, it is early in camp, right? Even though it's almost the end of March, we're still early in camp because we got the late start. And that has really changed the whole dynamic of how the rotation might shake out for the Cubs in 2022. So that's why I want to dive into this, because there's a lot of moving parts that manager David Ross and staff wouldn't have to deal with otherwise. But the circumstances were a little bit different this year. It's always one of my favorite things to see. All of us, like myself, that ramble on about the sport and the team, baseball in general, have opinions. We have our own ideas of how things should shake out, how certain parts of the club should work when the team breaks camp and heads towards the regular season. But until you get into live action on the field, on the backfields, in spring training contest, you never really know how it's going to shake out. So where do we stand now? Well, we got a late start. It's different than normal years, obviously, because of the lockout. Short spring has already created a flurry of injuries to the Cubs staff, which flat out stinks, because it's one of the things we preached about in trying to avoid, and the plans that Carter Hawkins had put in place, top to bottom, organizationally, minor leagues included, to get everyone on the same page, training regimen, et cetera, to combat some of these injuries that these younger pitchers and prospects have had. Well, now you throw into the mix the lockout, the shortened spring, and here you are dealing with the same issues. That's a tough concern going in. With that aside, the rotation itself is 3/5 or 60%, for those of you not as inclined with the numbers, set. Top three spots, Kyle Hendricks, looking for a big bounce back year from 2021. The new man, Marcus Stroman, our guy, and Wade Miley. Not necessarily in that order, but probably. Marcus Stroman, responded on Twitter to Locked On Cubs saying Hendricks is the guy opening day. So if you want to slot it that way, go. Kyle Hendricks, Stroman, Wade Miley. Barring an injury, Cubs know they can count on these three veterans, and I love that. Veteran leadership at the top of the rotation, 1, 2, 3, awesome, to set the tone for the pitching staff, something they didn't have last year. Kyle Hendricks was the lead man, had a horribly down year. Zach Davies was essentially number 2, made almost 30 starts, and he was not very good either. We love this group on top here at Locked On Cubs. On a side note, little teaser, we'll dive into these three more heavily tomorrow and really get deep into the numbers compared to 2021 in terms of the pitching staff. Little sneak preview. Those three are reason number 2 why the Cubs could win the division in 2022, or at least have a very big bounce back year. So Stroman and Hendricks are on target as it stands now to be at or close to a normal workload heading towards the April 7th opening day. So we know that. What about Wade Miley, the third man in the rotation? He hasn't pitched in a game yet, expected to in the next couple of days, according to manager David Ross. Pitching coach Tommy Hotovy did not sound overly concerned over the weekend about the left-hander and his workload to this point. Hotovy said Miley's being evaluated after every bullpen session. He threw another one on Monday. And the history of building up quickly for a season means the Cubs can take things slowly. Listen, Miley is a vet. He knows himself. He knows the drill by now. I have zero concern about this situation and him being ready for opening day. As a matter of fact, and we've preached this since this waiver deal happened back in November, absolutely love the fact that he slots in as the Cubs' third in the rotation. And let me say this with complete affirmation to you. I don't think we can pound this enough. The Miley waiver claim from Cincinnati could very well go down as the best under-the-radar move the Cubs have made in recent years. Veteran leadership, love it. Stability, love it. Consistency, love it, especially at a position where they need it the most after the rotation was so horrendous last year. Just so undervalued here. Okay, I'll stop the Miley love train, but I promise you this is a big deal. One big caveat to this entire starting pitching and starting rotation landscape is roster size. Teams are waiting right now to learn whether or not rosters are going to be expanded to start the year because the lockout affected spring training and therefore has created some injury issues for some clubs, the Cubs included. Increasing the roster to potentially say like 28 players would help bullpen depth and the health of the starters who might not be ramped up enough to where they typically should be in camp to this point when opening day rolls around. We wait and see on this, but it is a major point to see how the pitching staff will take shape. As of now, roster sizes under the new collective bargaining agreement also limits a 26-man roster to a maximum of 13 pitchers. So the Cubs are working through a ton of moving parts here as they look to form their staff, both starting rotation and bullpen for opening day. How does this essentially change the mindset in crafting the pitching staff? Well, it's a very good possibility the Cubs might want to take more pitchers who are capable of pitching multiple innings and use a piggyback setup to bridge from the starter to the back end of the bullpen. David Ross made mention of this over the weekend as well. Again, depending on roster sizes and limits, we'll see how all this shakes out. Okay, we get it. Top threes, guys, are set. Now what? Well, cue the music because it's musical chairs, 2 spots, 7 contestants for the final 2 slots in the rotation. You got left-handers Justin Steele, Drew Smyly, and Daniel Norris. And you got right-handers Robert Gesellman, Adrian Sampson, Keegan Thompson, and old friend Alec Mills. With all of that said, you can't leave Iowa without starting pitching depth, and they need AAA starters as well. Steele and Thompson both have options remaining, so they would both make sense to potentially start the year in Iowa due to that reason, unless they just have banging springs here to finish out. This is especially true potentially seeing them in Iowa with the recent Drew Smyly signing. Another vet, another lefty, now healthy, and another under the radar move from Carter Hawkins and Jed Hoyer that we aren't discussing enough. Maybe it's my lefty bias, but I love that as well. What about old friend Alec Mills? The guy threw a no-hitter a couple years ago. Do you remember that? Where does he stand on all of this? He says, obviously, I've done some things in the past I feel like have warranted me a chance of being a starter, but it's a what have you done for me lately business. So obviously, I need to keep pitching well and keep showing them that I deserve to be a starter. What are we doing at Locked On Cubs if we're giving the Cubs rotation keys? Well, let me tell you, the top three are set. We know that. I love Stroman's attitude. I love Hendricks on opening day. I love Marcus, number 2. I love Wade Miley, number 3. If he's ready and he's healthy, which he is, I love Drew Smyly, number 4. Having 2 lefties in the rotation to me is awesome. Something you don't see every day. Again, lefty bias, but I love it. You add another reliever who's been there, knows the drill, another veteran, I'm sorry, who's been there, knows the drill. That is an awesome top 4, in my opinion, especially compared to last year when they had so many issues in the rotation. If you can go Hendricks, Stroman, Miley, Smyly, sorry, I love that. And then for number 5, it's going to be an open door, I think. Given the injuries that some of the other prospects and younger arms have had, if it stands the way it does right now, I'm liking an Alec Mills at a number 5. Fairly consistent. You know what you're getting. He's a number 5. You're only asking for 5 innings every 5 days out of him at the very most likely. The guy's been there, like he said, he's a proven starter, but the track record the last year and a half hasn't been the prettiest, but I like him slotted in at 5 if you've got all 4 of those vets, Hendricks, Stroman, Miley, and Smyly ahead of him. Now, when everyone's healthy, that could change. And David Ross alluded to that. This could change 2 to 3 to 4 weeks into the season as well. But breaking camp, that's kind of how I'd like to see it. As we've said, the way the end of the rotation shakes out dictates how the bullpen forms itself and vice versa. And in a shortened camp with so many moving parts and roster sizes still up in the air potentially, so much more to work with here than last year, which we'll dive into the numbers tomorrow, but much better talent pool to choose from. Is it weird I'm excited about this rotation? Should I not be? We'll keep an eye on all this. I will say this, David Ross and company earning their money this year with the shortened spring and trying to piece this all together. But that's where I'm going. If I had the keys, that's kind of where things stand in David's eyes and the Cubs' eyes, with a couple of weeks left in spring training to finish sorting things out. We will keep an eye on it. Stay tuned with us here on Locked On Cubs. Shh. Do you hear that? More rumors swirling. What's the latest on the Willson Contreras front to the Yankees? We'll dive into that coming up shortly. Before we do, it's that time of year. Resolutions out the window. New year long gone, but not if you've incorporated Built Bar into your diet routine. Why? Because Built Bar tastes good and it's good for you, and it makes it easy to be a good boy or girl and stick to your diet plan. All Built Bars covered in 100% real chocolate, including the puffs, so they're good for you and they taste good. They're high in protein. They're low in calorie. Replace your candy bars with these. They're better. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. What about most Built Bars? Just 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Flavors are great. Mint brownie, coconut almond. New for March, white chocolate cookies and cream. I'll take one. Thank you. Do me a favor. Go to built.com. Use our promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your order. LOCKED15 at built.com. Willson Contreras discussion coming up next. Welcome back into Locked On Cubs. I'm your host, Andrew Bellison. Happy Wednesday to you. Thank you for turning us on and making us your first listen this Wednesday morning and every morning on your way to work, at home, at school, wherever you may be, whatever you may be doing. We appreciate it more than you know. We're free and available wherever you find your favorite cast. So please download us today and check us out on YouTube as well. Locked On Cubs YouTube. Subscribe to us there as well. We would greatly appreciate it. Check us out on Twitter at Chicago Cubs PA, at Locked On Cubs. So happy to be part of the Locked On family. I really can't say it enough, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Locked On MLB Prospects host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow, such as Cubs phenom Brennan Davis, who we've got an update on later in the show. Free and available, just like Locked On Cubs, wherever you get your favorite cast. So check out Locked On MLB podcast. So, round two, Willson Contreras talk. You kind of know where I stand on this if you have listened to the show since I took over hosting late last year. What would a lockout shortened spring camp be without swirling trade rumors, right? Especially involving one of your best players. Willson Contreras hits the headlines again. And yes, he's still a Cub for now, as of this morning, that is. Again, if you listen to the show throughout the lockout, you know where I stand on this. Willson Contreras needs an extension, period. He needs to remain a Cub. They cannot let him out of their grasp. But now the chatter has begun again. So what's the latest? Well, from veteran MLB reporter Bruce Levine, he says that the Yankees and Padres are among teams that have checked in with the Cubs to gauge Contreras' availability, although it's not clear if any discussions are currently ongoing or not. We also heard Contreras say the other day when he got to camp that having the opportunity to hit the free agent market would be a, quote, dream come true, given the path that he has taken to the United States, the bigs, his success, the adversity he has faced, et cetera, et cetera. So let's paint the picture this way. In the thick of his prime, Willson Contreras, parting ways with him, even though they have the very capable Yan Gomes sitting behind him on the depth chart, would be a gigantic mistake. I'm not wavering from the opinions that I've given you the entire off season. Here's why. As we have said, the universal designated hitter allows Gomes and Contreras to potentially be in the lineup together, which is great. You have one of the best, if not the best, 1-2 catching tandems in all of baseball, National League for sure, but in all of baseball with Contreras and Gomes. Allowing David Ross to keep Wilson's legs fresh throughout the season by getting him at bats at the designated hitter position and out from behind the plate is only going to increase his productivity this year and career longevity moving forward. Look at the leg issues he's had and the decline he's had later in seasons because of the fatigue on the lower half. Well, guess what? Now, because of the DH, like it or not, you've got a way to combat that, and it's only going to help the player. Lock him up. What about the two teams that have checked in with the Cubs wanting Wilson's services that we mentioned a little while ago? Padres make less sense if you dive into the numbers in their roster, given their current makeup, but the Yankees potentially would be a fit. And this is a little bit frightening. They really make an unsurprising possibility after trading Gary Sanchez. New York presently slated to roll with Kyle Higashioka and Ben Rortvedt behind the plate. Those two very capable defensive catchers, yet don't seem likely to be able to produce the offensive numbers of a Willson Contreras or a Gary Sanchez, so they look to replace the bat there. Hey, it's a good fit. What would come back in return? We don't know. But again, while there's no report yet on how active the Cubs are in discussions with any of these clubs, we also know that there aren't any contract extension talks on the table either. So it just frightens me. I'd feel much better if Willson was locked up as your starting catcher and you have him and Yan Gomes for at least 2 years, or maybe more. With a plethora of young catchers coming up behind those two, what you're trying to avoid is the carousel of catchers that we saw last year, which was just completely out of hand. So we'll see how this all shakes out as we move on. But goodness, I hope that Willson remains a Cub, and I hope that he's offered a good extension, and I hope that he's happy with it and jumps on it, because I want to see him at Wrigley Field for the next 4, 5, 6 years. Where does he stand on all of this? Because it's the player's opinion that truly matters, does it not? This is Willson, direct quote on all this. He said, "This is something that is really tough for me. Personally, the relationships I have with the team, players, and fans, leaving would be something that would be really tough to take. This is something very emotional for me, knowing that all I've had to go through to get to this point, it's going to be really tough and very emotional." We agree, Willson. So please, please stay here. Cubs, extend him now, please. We don't want Willson to go anywhere. We are going to head out to sunny Mesa, Arizona with you. Hop on board. I'm taking you with me for the latest Cubs news, notes, and nuggets coming up next. Before we get there, have you heard or used Athletic Greens? It's lifestyle friendly. Whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, contains less than 1 gram of sugar. Non-GMO, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. Do you know the importance of a multivitamin? Tons of people take some sort of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. AG1 is a small micro habit with big benefits. It's one thing you can do every single day to take great care of yourself. And this is kind of cool. Athletic Greens was created when the founder experienced a ton of gut health issues and ended up on a complicated supplement routine to recover, costing him over $100 a day. So what did he do? He created Athletic Greens after experiencing how difficult it was to create an optimal nutrition routine on his own. Athletic Greens has over 7,500 5-star reviews. It's recommended by pro athletes, trusted by leading health experts. You will love it. I promise you. Try it today. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/MLB network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Try Athletic Greens today. I think you'll like it. On to Mesa next. Come right back. Locked On Cubs fan, welcome back. Happy Wednesday to you. Andrew Bellison here. Proud to be the host of this podcast. Proud to be part of the Locked On family. Can't thank you enough for welcoming me in. It means the world to me. Fasten your seatbelts. Let's raise your trade tables in preparation for departure, please. Let's head out to Mesa, shall we, for an in-depth spring training check-in. Couple of little news and notes and a fun quote from a pitcher that we mentioned earlier in the show. Did you see Nick Madrigal the other day? Finally made his Cubs debut after rehabbing the hamstring injury that had him out during the time he came over in the Craig Kimbrell deal from the White Sox last year. Excited to see him stick. Nick Madrigal, likely at the top of the Cubs order a good amount. David Ross said he'll slot him all over the place, but great contact guy. Going to be a nice table setter in a lineup that struck out way too much last year. So excited that he is healthy and ready to go. Cubs fans, you held your breath when you saw Brennan Davis hit the deck, didn't you? I know I did. Breathe easy. He's okay. Top prospect Brennan Davis, day-to-day with a bruised right knee. Outfielder exited in the bottom of the second inning the other day after Reds pitcher Graham Ashcraft drilled him in the knee. He is A-okay, Brennan. Heal up, get well soon. How about aforementioned rotation candidate Keegan Thompson? He gives us the Locked On Cubs quote of the day for today. And he was talking about how he looked a little bit leaner showing up to Cubs camp later this year. And he said, quote, "I tried to eat clean. We were traveling a lot. I got married this offseason. Congratulations. And we had our honeymoon and everything. So it was a very busy, hectic offseason for me. So I tried to eat as clean as possible because I knew I wouldn't really be able to have the same routine early in the offseason." Well, Keegan, good for you. You look good. I'm sure you feel good. Wonder if he incorporated Built Bar into his clean routine. We'll have to find out. Well, I want to thank you again for taking the time to make Locked On Cubs your first listen today. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for stopping by. We ask you to make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues past and present. It's free and available, just like Locked On Cubs, wherever you get your favorite cast. Great stuff coming tomorrow. Reason number 2, as a matter of fact, why the Cubs could be division winners in 2022. Thanks for stopping by today. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm Andrew Bellis, and this has been Locked On Cubs. Adios.